Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to helping accounting professionals have the premier accounting firm in their area, where we address topics with the experts that range from marketing, selling, providing quality services, pricing, onboarding clients, retaining clients, and so much more. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and I'm looking forward to having you each and every week on with the experts to hear what we can be doing to work on our business. Now, I have a guest today that is going to be a fun discussion. It's someone that I've been looking forward to having on the show. This is Anish Baheti. He happens to be an award-winning author and purpose coach to professionals of all walks of life. He's often heard saying that God has been kind in showering him with two skills: simplifying the complex and inspiring the uninspired. As the founder and CEO of Train My Brain and Concepts Coach, Anish has delivered thousands of entertaining, energizing, and engaging sessions. Now, his signature program is the Life Deck. It's a 50-card deck that helps identify needs to purpose. It captures the journey from self-inquiry to self-realization beautifully and can be implemented by anyone in a self-paced way. The Numbers Deck is also another fun program to teach accounting to non-accountants in less than 90 minutes, just by making them play with a deck of 52 cards. As well, he happens to be a chartered accountant, so welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and it's amazing to hear your voice. So thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting you when we were in Las Vegas, so I've been looking forward to this conversation. Let's jump in. I'd like to give some context to everyone. I'm always curious the journey that it takes to become an accountant, why someone chose the profession. Just give us a little of insight as to how you actually ended up becoming a chartered accountant. Why accounting?
So I will be extremely honest with you, Roger. So we were like 4 or 5 friends when we were doing, our college degree. And one fine day we found this leaflet saying, CA program, Chartered Accounting program, foundation level. So we were very excited because the place where I am currently in India, CA is supposed to be a very prominent sort of a qualification. If you become a chartered accountant, it is very respected. So 4 of us, we enroll into the program, and with God's blessing, we all cleared the foundational level exam, and then we enter into the intermediate exam, group 1, group 2, we cleared that, and then we entered into the final exam, group 1, group 2. So 3 of us cleared the exam in first go, and we were all in the youngest CA list of India. I did my CA at the age of 22. So it was not, I would say that it was not designed that I was supposed to do CA, but it just happened in a way that it was not planned. But then once we got the degree, it's worth enjoying the degree. So that's how it happened.
You make it sound as if one day you just poof woke up, had taken the exams, and hey, I'm a chartered accountant now. So that's kind of funny. So you get your chartered accountant. You're now a certified accounting professional.
Yeah.
What happened next in your career? Did you go find employment? Give us a little start of what that looked like.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you asked that, because after CA, and again, to give you the real story, I'm not making up anything here. So once I got my CA degree, I started getting offers from MNCs and really great offers. And I entered into a job role in one of the companies, and I worked for a while. I didn't like the company. I didn't like the function. So I changed the job. Then I switched to a different multinational corporation in a different function. I worked there for a while. I didn't like it. I shifted. So I changed about 6 jobs in a span of 9 months when I was starting off my career.
Oh my
At that point of time, I was feeling that something is wrong with me. What's going on? It's very weird, and a lot of people are saying, like, why don't you stick to one specific job? Because you already have a good degree. You just have to just go one step at a time in any organization. But at some point of time, I was feeling that this is not something which I really want to do. I was like, I felt that I'm making somebody else's dream. It's not my own dream which I'm building. So those questions were haunting me, and that's where I felt like, okay, let me try and go overseas and take additional degree. And that's when I went to Australia. This is back in 2004. So I got my degree in 2002, and then I think 2003 beginning I went to Australia to do my MBA. I completed my MBA in 2005. I did my MBA in accounting and finance. Now, the real turning point in my life happened while I was doing my MBA program in Australia. So I had a friend, and her close friend, she was struggling with accounting and she was doing engineering management in Sydney. And she said, like, she asked her friend that Anish is a good friend of yours. He's a chartered accountant from India. It will be a piece of cake for him to explain me accounting. So I said, it's okay, no problem. I will explain accounting to you. But the way of explaining accounting was not giving straight solution. So I till date, I don't give straight solution. What I did was I actually dissolved the problem. I gave her a different view of looking at the problem. I asked her to look at the problem from a different perspective. And while she was doing that, I was just there as a mentor. I was just there, sitting as a coach. I was just going to give her the hints when she's actually, feeling, oh, I don't know. So I was just there to give the hints. And while I was doing that, I didn't even realize that I was coaching. But while I was doing that, she was able to unpack and the accounting problem, and she was able to solve it. And at the end of the session, or at the end of the sort of a meeting, she felt like, wow, Anish, you actually simplified it for me. She said something, till date I cannot forget that. She said something incredibly beautiful which has made my life where I am today. She said, Anish, you have got a knack of simplifying it at my level. So you simplified accounting, but you came down, not being a CA, you came down to my level as if I'm a non-accountant, and you are also a non-accountant, and you're teaching me accounting concept in a very nice, easy, simple to understand format. And that's it. So that's how I started simplifying the complex and inspiring. In a way, I was inspiring her, because at the end she said, Anish, I actually fell in love with accounting. So that was like, oh wow, it is something magical for me to hear, because I was not planning to do coaching. And from there it started. I started helping. So I started off as a tutor. I started helping a lot of students from the UAE, from Australia, from local students and all that. And then slowly and gradually working professionals came, and then CEOs and directors, people who are pressed on time. They don't have time, and they have never done a formal education like maths or accounting in their life, and now they are doing executive MBA program. And there are bookkeepers who are coming to understand accounting, what MYOB or QuickBooks is doing in the system, in the software. They want to understand what is the manual side of it. So there are a lot of people started coming, football players and all sort of different individuals started coming. And then I designed my own sort of a course. There are a lot of people now, like 14 years down the line, I'm still doing that. There are a lot of people who have stopped going to universities and colleges. They just come down to me and say, Anish, this is the course outline. Can you please simplify it for me? And there you go. So that's all happened. And so that was a journey. Basically, it was not planned. It just happened. I kept my senses open, and I was just receiving the information which that girl said as a sponge, and I just absorbed it and changed my career path altogether.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because one of the things that I also enjoy is not just with accounting professionals simplifying the accounting model, but like you were describing, it's taking someone who is a non-accountant. They never got formally trained in accounting. Their understanding of debits and credits and so forth isn't really formalized. And you take a moment and you help educate them as to what the accounting model really is and the process of moving around those assets and those responsibilities. All of a sudden, what happens is you find that the person has this epiphany, a light bulb goes off, and they just realize, oh my heavens, I understand what's happening here. I understand what the asset is, what the liability is. And that aha moment is oftentimes very much worn on their face. And so I can really attest that what you're describing happens. The one thing that I think is incredible about what you're doing is you are, in fact, simplifying the accounting model for people. You spoke of in less than 90 minutes with that card deck that you're able to do this. So I'd like to find out, what was the starting of the card deck? Because obviously tutoring a friend, tutoring a few individuals, answering questions, that's one thing. Why the card deck?
Very good question, Roger. Very good question. And I was actually the way it happened was back in my MBA program days. So when I was doing my MBA, and accounting was obviously one of the core subject which everyone has to do it. So it was very easy for me because I have done my CA, so it was like a piece of cake for me. But then when I was sitting in the class, I was seeing a lot of blank faces. People were just they didn't understand, they were not able to catch the pace of the professor was assuming that you need to know this is something which you should not be asking me that. So a lot of people were holding up their questions, they were unable to ask the question, they were unable to grasp what was being taught in the class. And 2 hours of class was like a bit of a pain for a lot of students. So, and then they, after the class, they come down and say, I didn't understand this. Anish, can you help me, etc., etc. So it happened like that. So while it was happening, I felt like I had this sort of a itch that, it has to be made simple. It has to be made simple for people who are finding the language of business complex. That's number one. Number two is it has to be made playful. It has to be made fun. It has to be made experiential. Because, see how little kids learn a new thing. You just make them play, you just make them have fun, make them have, go through an experience. They will learn anything. So that was the concept which hit into my mind, that it has to be made very concise and simple. It has to be made fun and experiential. And first I thought, shall I create an application, or so, but then I felt that if I create an application, again they will be glued to a mobile phone or a laptop, where again they are just doing it in that format. So I wanted to keep something very physical which they can actually touch and feel, and they can still learn in a playful manner. And that's how I felt like maybe the deck of cards. And I don't know how it came into my mind, but even the title, I don't I just don't remember. Like, all this insight comes usually at 12 o'clock in the midnight when I'm sleeping. So where I'm sleeping, I usually keep a notepad and pen. So even the name, Train My Brain, my business name, it just came like 12:30 in the morning, and then I just woke up and wrote that name. And the next day, I just went to online and just registered it, like the trademark and all that. And that's how Numbers Deck came into being. And I wanted to keep it restricted to 52 cards, just to give them that a feeling of playing cards. So yeah, that's how it happened, Roger. Actually, the trigger was the classroom environment, where I was feeling a lot of students being stressed out. And then, when the exam comes, they keep rushing. I don't, and then start memorizing stuff because they want to really clear the exam. So the entire journey of making it so stressful just to tick that box and get that degree, I thought, can it be made joyful? Can it be made playful? Can it be made more interesting? And you would be surprised that a lot of people are now working in the accounting profession, because they actually love the foundation. They now know the foundation really well. So that's how it all started.
So one of the things that I think is interesting is you're taking the language of business, accounting, and you're turning it into a game of sorts. You're using the 52 card deck to kind of comfortably introduce the principles to someone. So I'm imagining in my mind that you always carry a deck of cards with you. And second, I'm imagining that it's almost as if you're playing solitaire all the time. So give me a short understanding of the concept that's behind the 52 card deck experience when you're actually teaching the numbers deck.
So basically, we do it in 3 formats. One is a live workshop where students, working professional, or even startup founders and entrepreneurs or business owners who want to understand accounting, or even working professional who want to sit in a board meeting and want to understand what is income statement and balance sheet. So those are the sort of a target audience, and they come and sit in the program, and we just give them deck of cards, so like maybe 3 or 4 in one on one sort of a table, and other 4 people in another group, and then we just take them through. Like, I've designed a format, a very simplified format. I'm like a step-by-step guy, so I feel that if you're learning a new language, or if you're learning like a new skill, it is always good that you go step by step. So I build that step, I teach them that format, and then I give them transactions. So transactions, like if you're running a business, say for example you are having a coffee shop, and this is day 1 of your coffee shop, and Roger comes into your coffee shop to order a cup of coffee, and you serve the cup of coffee and you get the money. So it is a business transaction. So first of all, personal transaction versus business transaction. Clarify that, and then what is a business transaction? Now, when I give this example, then I ask them, like, what are the accounts which are getting impacted? Can you think of 2 accounts, or maybe 2 different areas which will get impacted with this transaction? So I let them think about it. So they come up with some weird names, and that's where the learning starts. So you come to know, okay, this is what they're thinking, and you dissolve the confusion. You don't give them the straight answer. You try and give them hints so that they can find out by themselves. And once they have done the accounts, then you try and link it with the elements. So there are certain steps which I take them through in the journey. And once they are able to understand the format, then I give them slightly more challenging transaction, and that's when they open the deck of cards, bring up the right card, input that in the right format, and that's it. Magically, they will understand that the debits and the credits are matching. So I don't even get into the debit and credit definition, because see, Roger, you understand, right? Debit from a business owner's perspective would be a credit from a bank's perspective, and vice versa.
Correct.
So, if they start remembering, debit, what comes in, credit, what goes out, so then they're again getting into that memorizing pattern. So I just say, don't worry about anything. Just remember, assets and expenses are debit in nature. And then I explain what is nature. So the nature of aircon is to keep you cool. The nature of sun is to keep you warm. Similarly, the nature of an asset and an expense is usually debit. And that's it. That is the only statement which I ask them to remember. And then I've got certain rules which I've created, like 7 golden rules of accounting. I take them through that rules of accounting, and then just give them transactions to play with the deck of cards. And that's it. Once they do that, then I link it with the income statement, balance sheet, and show them that, okay, this is how it's connected with the income statement, balance sheet. So it's like a crash course, 90 minutes. They will understand how transaction originates, how to solve any transaction and magically get debit equal credit, and then how that entire thing is linked to your financial statement.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, because I was very curious how the whole 52 card deck kind of experience was. So I appreciate it. So here's a question regarding the people that you work with. What's the trigger that causes a person to say, I need to participate, I want to learn this, I'm willing to sit down and spend time with you, perhaps even spend money with you. What's that trigger that causes an individual to say, I need to learn more about accounting and understand it?
What a great question, Roger. So see, it is like this, okay? If it is to do with money. At the end of the day, accounting is to do with money, because once you run your business, then you create your financial statement. So as a business owner, ideally, I should know, what are my revenues, what are my expenses, what are my ratios. I need to know that as a business owner, just the way you need to know about marketing, just the way you need to know about finances. Accounting is also one of the skills which an entrepreneur or a business owner should know. Students who are enrolling into accounting for the very first time in their life, they will get really bogged down. They will get zapped when they see the professor teaching accounting at a very different pace. And then they will get this sort of a fear of accounting. See, if it is not properly taught, when you are starting off, then you will get a fear of numbers. So whenever you are in a meeting where you see a chartered accountant or a CFA talking about accounting, you will feel, oh, this guy is really an expert. I don't know anything about it, which is not the case, right? Because those people who don't know about accounting, they haven't done accounting in the right way. And they come to me and they say, Anish, I've never done accounting. Can you please teach me the basic accounting? So just today itself, just to give you an example, I've got this bookkeeper. She was my student 10 years back when she was doing financial accounting in Australia. Now she's running her bookkeeping services in Australia. And she's coming down to me to understand accounting, which she can teach to her clients. So basically, her clients are asking her some questions. Oh, why is this going in income statement? And why this is, what is asset? They're asking them her very simple basic question. Now she's doing everything on software, so it's very difficult for her to explain the why behind everything. And that's where she comes to me and say, Anish, I want to educate my clients so that they become slightly more educated, they become slightly more sharp, and they also become wiser in terms of asking really good question, not the basic stuff. So I teach them accounting. So can you please teach me how to teach them? So that's another sort of a segment which comes. Then I have got, as I said, working professionals and CEOs of company who sit in a board meeting and they discuss the financial statements. They talk about the ratios. They talk about in the cash flow statement, they talk about cash burning ratio, all that sort of thing. So they want to understand, Anish, can you just give me a snapshot of what a financial statement analysis look like? So those are some of the people who come down to me. And then, as I said, entrepreneurs, business owners, students, working professionals from non-accounting background, and also bookkeepers who are running, or accountants who are running their practices, when they want to educate their clients, they are also, the target audience here. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. That explanation that you just gave is hugely important, because I do feel that the listeners of the podcast here can relate to it. The first, you gave the example of the bookkeeper. I time and time again have experiences where accounting professionals who do the bookkeeping, that do the accounting, who are very comfortable with financial reports, struggle communicating the information to their clients. They just can't communicate it in a basic enough way that their business clients are able to understand and utilize it. And so because of that, they have a trouble actually helping the business owner utilize that information. That's perhaps the easiest way to say it. And so all of a sudden, you've got this miscommunication or misunderstanding that's going on between the accounting professional and their client. They're not conversing. They're not talking about what the numbers are saying. And it's simply because of the fact that the accounting professional struggles to communicate in a very simplistic, layman terms way what the numbers are saying. And so because of that, I've had many conversations with accounting professionals as to how can we simplify this information so that the business owner can comfortably use it. So I liked your first example of the bookkeeper because I see that all the time. But the second one is very appropriate. So often I'm working with business owners who have very successful companies. They do their work very, very well, but they're intimidated by the accounting information. And because they don't know how to communicate, they struggle to ask the questions they feel they should be asking of their accounting professionals, whether it be the hired accountant, CPA that they're working with. It's just, how do I ask questions and not look embarrassed because I'm asking something that was not exactly correct. I didn't say it right. Well, if you can make it so that the business owner can comfortably ask questions and find information out about their own financials, there's a better dialogue going on. But there's one more part, a third part. I find that business owners oftentimes struggle interviewing, hiring, managing accounting professionals if they don't understand the job, if they don't understand what to ask and look for. So it's hard for them to interview someone to do something that they don't really understand and manage them. And so going through this whole process of simplifying the accounting model, helping the business owner, or for that matter, the accounting professional, communicate in an effective way, really makes it so that this information that we're working so hard to get is actually used in running the business, whether it be the accountant or the business owner looking at it and using it. So I think this part of the conversation is hugely important. So here's my next question for you. When you're working with accounting professionals and you're talking about this program that you teach, this 52 card deck experience, what do they say when they're finished? Is there an aha, an epiphany that they have? What do they say?
Well, I will be honest again with my response. So usually and you can check it online also on the website and all that. These are all real testimonials of people who have done, like there are a lot of examples in the last 14 years. I've got so many examples where they were struggling, like CFO coming down and saying, Anish, I was going to the university for seven straight week, and I understood in 1 week what I was trying to understand the last 7 weeks. So this is like one example. Then just to give you examples of bookkeepers and accountants who come down and say, Anish, yes, I didn't realize that this is what QuickBooks was doing. I was just punching it. I know what to enter, and I know where to enter, and then I just hit enter and the report comes down. So I understand the report, but I don't know what is the process. And when someone asks me the process, then I go blank. Or even if I know, I cannot explain it. I cannot communicate in a way that it is understandable by those clients, because they are from non-accounting background. So when I teach them this, they say, wow, I mean, it's like in 90 minutes, Anish, you are able to dissolve it. And if I can just teach this, if I can just show this to my clients, at least their understanding of the basic 5 elements, what is asset, liability, owner's equity, revenue, expenses, the basic understanding of 5 elements, basic understanding of what are transaction, all that will be clear. And then you don't need to teach them the ledgers. It's not required. You just need to teach them what is this transaction doing to your financial statement. That's it. Because as a business owner, they just need to know, if I go and buy a piece of land, how it is going to impact my capital. Is it going to impact my capital, or is it going to impact my non-current asset? So once you clarify that section, they will become slightly more wiser in terms of making their own business decision also. And then the quality of question will also improve. So I think a lot of people see that, because Anish, you have concise it in such a short format. 90 minutes is like, it's completely fine. I can easily invest 90 minutes. And you have certain transaction, like certain transaction which you give us to practice on our own. And then we have the deck of cards. So we can play with the deck of cards and understand where I'm going wrong. I can sit with another client of mine, or I can sit with my family members. I can teach them. You will be surprised, Roger. I have done this with 5th grade students, and they're like 10-year, 11-year-old kids, and they were able to, without even starting the presentation, without even writing a single thing on the blackboard, they were able to just play with the cards in 70 minutes, 70. They were able to understand accounting for the very first time in their life. So now I'm teaching kids to understand accounting before they get into 10th grade or 11th grade, when they actually have to understand accounting. So I'm going to that level. So it is like, it's just keeping it short and simple, keeping it real, keeping it natural, and just building the blocks one step at a time. So, and just making it fun and experiential.
That's really good, because I can actually relate to some of the things that you just shared. The Universal Accounting Center, for many that don't know, we, as a post-secondary school, have a variety of courses that we teach. And as you were just mentioning, there are oftentimes individuals that, as accounting professionals, they learn to be data entry people. They know in the software programs where to put the information, but they just don't understand what the computer's doing behind the scenes to manage the journal, the ledger, the debit, the credit. And all of a sudden, what we have found, there was one course we were teaching that all of a sudden we incorporated into the curriculum, actually teaching software and having them do a lot of the exercises, the assignments within the software. And we started to find that as we added that into the curriculum, the grades of the individuals passing the final exam started to decrease. People started to not perform as well and understand the concepts. And as we watched it over a number of months, we found that as we embedded the software training with the course, their comprehension of accounting was going down. It was going down because what they were becoming is just merely data entry people. They knew where the transactions were recorded in the software, but they didn't understand what was happening at the accounting level. So honestly, we, in less than a year period of time, removed from the accounting training course the entire software component. We kept it outside of the course as a separate class that you would go through in the training. But we made it so that that particular course was done entirely longhand. It was basically old school accounting done on paper, and for the most part, it really helped everyone because it got them to learn the entire accounting model, and it allowed them to, when they started working with the accounting software, appreciate what the software was doing because they knew what all the processes consisted of. So I can relate to what you're describing, that sometimes I think as accounting professionals, we are great data entry people, but we're forgetting some of the nuances of what's actually happening within the accounting to move those transactions around and basically balance the books. Here's another question. I'm going to kind of go off topic here. I know that in addition to your accounting training and you being a chartered accountant, that you also pursued becoming a certified life coach as well as a certified brain mapping practitioner. I find that very fascinating. Not too many people I run into as accounting professionals also have experience as certified life coaches or brain mapping practitioners. Tell me, what intrigued you to want to pursue those certifications?
Amazing. Great question once again, Roger. So I will be honest again. While I was doing my session, so, a lot of people, not only the student community, as I said, like working professional and CEOs and, directors or people who are running multi-billion-dollar companies, they come down to understand accounting. So they were sitting in front of me, 45 years of age, and, suddenly they start feeling very overwhelmed. They start feeling, a lot of people also started crying because it seems that it's so easy and I'm unable to get it. Like that sort of a feeling which they were having, that, accounting, I mean, I'm running a big sort of a company. I can do all that, but I'm unable to understand it. So they had this sort of a fear of accounting. So I understood one thing, that it is not only the accounting side. There is something which needs to be done at the mind level also. There is something to do with the mindset of this person. You need to actually, a lot of people, as you rightly said before, that they don't want to feel embarrassed. Oh, why am I asking 2 plus 2 to Anish? Or why am I asking 12 plus 14? Why do I have to pull up my mobile phone or calculator to do that? Anish, I have not done formal maths. How do you do the algebra for this section? So I do teach finance also. So they asked me this sort of a question. So my first job was to make them feel absolutely comfortable. You can ask me any question. You can ask me as many times as you want. The idea is that you will not feel embarrassed. The idea is that you will understand, and you will understand to its core. So while I was doing that, I realized that I'm not only teaching accounting or finance, but I'm also building their mindset. I'm also building their confidence levels secretly. Not telling them directly, but secretly, I was building the confidence level in them. So I thought, and a lot of people said, like, Anish, I think you have got good sort of a ability to understand what the other person is going through, and what sort of tensions or what sort of confusion they are carrying, and you are able to dissolve it. So that's when I felt that, okay, let us take a formal sort of an education, like a formal certification. So that's when I did my certificate in life coaching from Australia. And then I also did brain mapping, because brain mapping to me is like a starter. So whenever a client comes down to me, not for accounting, but for, life skills and life, issues and all that, the very first thing which I do is brain mapping, to understand where this person is today, as of today. What is this person's natural inclination? What is this person's natural behavior preference? Do they really want to do what they're doing in their job currently, or do they are just forcing themselves? Are they living by default, or are they living by design? So my role is to take them from living by default to living by design, by unpacking their real talent. And that's when I do the brain mapping. And once I do brain mapping, then I come to know what are the blocks. And that's when I introduced the life deck, the 52 card deck, which I mentioned before, just to help them understand the negative emotions and the positive emotions in a slightly different perspective, giving them a different viewpoint of, what is guilt and what is depression and what is mindfulness, just giving all different versions of different dimensions of life. And then once we do that, then the entire purpose is to find that person's purpose or ikigai in life and helping them build a life around it, helping them build a business around it. Like imagine, Roger, if you know someone who is actually struggling, who is actually, who doesn't want to wake up in the morning on like Monday and go to work, he's just dragging himself to work and then he's just waiting for Friday to come. If you know someone like that, and if you think that if this person can come to know his ikigai or the purpose in life, and if he can actually design a life around that purpose, all 7 days will just go like, it's just going to beautifully flow, rather than having that sort of a tension or friction in yourself. So that's how I started working on like helping people find their purpose in life. So in a way, my purpose is to help people find their purpose in life and slowly and gradually build a life which they are proud to live. So yeah.
This is hugely important. I'm going to get into a few applications of why I think this is so important to our listeners. But before I move on, define for us Ikigai.
Ikigai, Roger, it is a Japanese word. It's a Japanese term. So I was in Japan and I happened to know a village called as Okinawa, where the average age of an individual is 90 plus, usually 95 is an average age. And apart from the clean environment, the weather and, clean food, etc., every single individual in that village has got a purpose to wake up in the morning, like the reason for being. They know what they are chasing, they know that what they are chasing is very beautiful. So there is a zeal, there is an enthusiasm in their body, in their cell, to wake up in the morning and to chase that. And when they're doing it, in a way, they're actually designing their life. They are not living by default what the society is telling you. The society will tell, okay, at the age of 20 you get your education, 24 you get married, then you get your have a house, you have your kids, etc., and then you get in that sort of a cycle. So that is one way of leading your life. Second way of leading your life is to do which maybe 10% of the population is doing. 90% is falling in the first category. 10% of the population are really feeling that this is one life. You just got one life. You need to design it, and you should be proud when you're finally leaving your breath, the last breath. When you're leaving your body. The question which is going to be extremely important is, did I live? Did I live my life according to my terms? And if the answer is yes, okay, you are good to go. And if the answer is no, then there is a lot of regret, guilt. Oh, I should have done that when I was young. Oh, I should have taken that route, etc., etc. So the idea is, everyone has got an ikigai. Every single person has got a purpose, but it gets hidden, with the responsibilities, and we somehow try and push it down. And somehow, oh yes, one fine day I will do that. Oh yes, one fine day I'm going to chase that hobby or this, that. And that day never comes, because then as you grow older, your energy level drops, your physical energy drops, mental, you have got a lot of responsibilities. So financial stress comes in, a lot of things happen, and then you just forget about that, and then you just lead a life the way it was supposed to be, what everyone is doing. Okay, let me just do that. So my the whole purpose of doing this, the way I took my journey being a CA, I am not doing a CA practice, because I think I'm better in explaining the accounting and finance terms in a simple manner. So I'm on the education side of it. And while I was doing education, I came to know, okay, this is something which you can also help people in terms of their mindset. So that is also education. So yeah, that is
Well,
it.
no, that's very, very good. So here's a few things that came to mind as you were sharing that. I was reminded of Brendan Burchard. He's got a phrase that he uses, did I live, did I love, did I matter? And so he's really focused on, as you were describing, Ikigai. And it's really, I think, applicable in business, because when we look at the coaching that we provide to the business clients that I work with, there are 5 services that we provide. And the very first of all those services happens to be what we refer to as engage and manifest. And it's very much like what you're describing. When you're having a conversation with a business owner and you're talking about their purpose, as you said, so often what you find is that energy that they can tap into when things get difficult, when they get hard, when they're having to make some challenging decisions, they're able to tap into that. And so as a life coach or as a brain mapping practitioner, if we can actually get to the point where we can help the client get greater clarity as to what they're good at, what they like, what they are doing, how it makes a difference, how people benefit, those things then give a lot more purpose, as you're saying, to the business that they run and operate. And so I always find that part of my coaching fascinating, because too often I'm asking questions that no one has ever asked before, and it causes the person that I'm speaking to pause and think through their responses, because it can get very deep as to, well, of all the things you could be doing, why this? So I like all of that. Regarding brain mapping, just real quickly in a very simplistic form, tell us what brain mapping is.
See, brain mapping, Roger, it is, first of all, it's not a psychometric test. It is not a test at all. So if you're doing that as a test, then you are going to outsmart it. You want to, beat the system and all that. So first of all, when we do brain mapping for any individual, we say it's not a test. It is just to know your natural inclination at this point of time. So it's an exercise when they go through, it's like an inventory which they have to fill. And once they complete the inventory, when they submit it, we come to know, okay, which part of their brain is most active, which part of the brain is more they are inclined to use in a very most of the time. So like, what is their underlying behavior preference, and then they have some sort of something which we call as an adaptive behavior preference. So say, for example, I'm not a public speaker, so my underlying behavior preference, when I do the brain map, it shows that, oh, maybe Anish, you're not meant to be on the stage, say, for example, and someone asked me, no, Anish, you have to make that presentation. So that's when I have to adapt, and I'm forcing myself. That's not my natural behavior. So in work, in business, in life, we have to adapt at times to different, depending upon the situation, we have to adapt. But then when you come back to your natural self, what is that you like? Do you like to analyze things? Do you like to start up something? Do you like people, connection, coordination, support? Do you like creativity, marketing? What is that, which gels with your personality? And that shows up in that brain map. And from there, we go a level further. We do 8 dimension. We first do 4 dimension, then we do 8 dimension. And then we go and, do a 360-degree sort of a evaluation for that individual, like how good they are in terms of emotional intelligence and all that. So it's like that sort of an analysis for an individual to know. It's like a mirror which is just going to tell you where you are as of today.
I like that explanation, because I think so often we don't understand what is our natural ability or what we excel in innately. And what we need to do is, do I do better in a group setting with a team environment, or do I work better autonomously and independently? Where am I more creative? Do I actually thrive off of interacting with people, or do I get frustrated and quiet up? It's all these little nuances that help us identify where we can excel and do our best. Earlier, you used the word flow. I don't want to necessarily harp too much on this, but flow has been something I've been hearing a lot about lately. Flow is a term that is oftentimes used in applying it in life, in business. I'm curious, you used the word. What did you mean by the word flow?
So I was just listening to one of this video. I just forgot the person. There's a book actually which is titled as Flow, and I think the author is called as Ikigai or something. I'm forgetting this. I think he's Hungarian, and it's a beautiful sort of concept. What he's trying to say is, when you are in a state of flow, you feel the best and you perform the best. It's like there is no friction. It's like, you can say, like a sports person who is actually running a race, and everything else is completely completely disappears from that person's mind, and he's just super focused on the basically just running or doing that sort of act which they are involved in. So flow is if you are in a state of flow, this is my personal sort of opinion or personal sort of self reflection about this concept of flow, is when you are actually flowing, it works as an antidote for anxiety. Because if you're anxious, whenever you're anxious, you're trying to think too much about the future. You want the future to happen the way you want it to happen. You want that person to behave the way you want it to be them to behave, and you want it to happen quickly. That's the reason you're very anxious about it. So it is opposite to the concept of flow, because in the state of flow, you are just going with the how the events are actually unfolding. You're just seeing one day at a time. It doesn't mean that you are becoming passive. It doesn't mean that you don't, oh, it's okay, I'm just going to lie on the bed and let it flow, let me see what happens. It's not that. Basically, you are putting the effort, so 100% involvement in the process and 0% attachment to the outcome. That is my version or my definition of flow, that you are purely involved in the process, but you are absolutely detached with the outcome. You learn from the outcome. And then you again go into the state of flow with the renewed sort of information, or you whatever learning from your mistake, and then apply that again in the process, involving yourself 100%. So that is flow.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because I would add to that, my understanding of flow is, when are you most optimally able to work? Are you a morning person, afternoon, evening person? Are you someone that works very well in a group environment or in an individual environment? Are you able to actually define flow as, do you work with music on, background noise? It's basically identifying where you're able to excel. And the easiest way I've seen it defined is when you lose track of time. Flow is where you just get into that state of production where you just go so smoothly from activity to activity to activity, where you're able to really remove all the distractions, kind of forget all the other things that are going on, because you get into this state of mind where you flow without interruption. And so I've learned that flow, for a lot of people, some will say it's early morning before everyone wakes up. That's when they work most efficiently. So if you were to have to deal with a certain project or a task that needed your undivided attention, when and where would you actually do it most effectively? And if you could find when you are most effective and productive, time-wise, location-wise, setting-wise, those things help you tap into flow more deliberately and intentionally, and therefore you're able to be as productive, as most effective as you can be. So anyways, flow, love the concept. It's very, very appropriate, and I'm pleased to say I personally experience it on a regular basis. I find that flow very comfortably. I'm going to start wrapping this up. Anish, this has been a great conversation. I was looking forward to it after our initial conversation there in Las Vegas. So let me just summarize for our listeners what it is we've discussed. Before I give just kind of a review of our conversation today, let me just point out to our listeners that Anish is providing a discounted access to this 52 card deck accounting exercise that I would like to invite all the listeners to go take advantage of. If you go to the episode description, in the episode description, you will find there Accounting for Non-Accountants. It's an on-demand video course using a deck of 52 cards. It's something that Anish is giving us a 25% discount to, that you can go take, and in doing so, learn how you can more effectively communicate the accounting model to your clients and help them understand what are those things that are going on within the business. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is you will also find information regarding what's called color accounting. Color accounting is likewise a very simplistic yet thorough overview of the accounting model that accounting professionals as well as non-accounting professionals use to in a non-accounting way, learn what is going on. And it's leveraging, in this case, instead of a card deck, color. And I've found that it likewise is a phenomenal way of helping accounting professionals simplify the conversation they're having with their clients. But likewise, accounting professionals can use this to help their non-accountant clients better understand what it is they're looking at as they receive the financial reports and interact with us regarding this language of business that we so often use to describe what's happening in the company. So go to the episode description, take advantage of these two offers, and learn what it is you can to better communicate with your clients. Now, with that being said, as a summary of today's conversation, I think it's interesting that, one, we started with this common question that so many people entering the accounting profession are having, people that are accounting professionals, they know where to enter the data, where to put the numbers, but really what's happening behind the scenes, particularly in a software environment. There's also all these business owners, business managers that have accounting responsibilities, but struggle to understand what is really going on in the accounting model. All of these people led for Anish to create this interactive, gamified approach to learning accounting with the 52 card deck. And I really think that part of the conversation was quite helpful, because I think it's something that I experience on a regular basis, whether it be with the accounting professionals I interact with or with the business clients that I have. The second thing that, as a summary, really stood out to me is the fact that obviously Anish is very passionate about what he's doing with the people that he's talking. And I think we all need to find that same passion, that same enthusiasm, where when people are struggling to understand what the numbers are saying, that they turn to us and they are comfortable talking to us and they're interested in our helping them understand those numbers. And so I hope we can all find within ourselves that same enthusiasm and passion so that we can be approachable and we can help our clients utilize the information that we're providing. The other thing that kind of stands out to me is in the conversation, we talked about this idea of life coach, the business or the mind mapping, the brain mapping. I felt that that's appropriate because so many of the clients that we're working with sometimes hit this proverbial wall. It's either ourselves or our clients of, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And so forth. And he described it as purpose. And I think we all just need to find our purpose. We just need to see what is it that we're doing. And if we can really get clarity on what it is we do, why it is we do it, and so forth, it makes life much more purposeful, fun to live, enjoyable, gives us a reason to get out of bed. And I hope everyone listening can actually say that they have found that for themselves. And if you haven't, I would encourage you to make it a priority to identify in your own life what it is that you're doing. With my clients, I happen to define it as engaging and manifesting. It's what do you want to focus on and prioritize so that it's something deliberate that you're doing. And then from that, what's going to happen? What's going to manifest? What's going to come of this? And if we can actually work and focus on things with purpose, we're more likely to obtain them. And so I appreciate that clarity. The last thing that I wanted to also do is just point out that Anish was very comfortable in sharing with us this journey of how he's now an educator. And I think so often accounting professionals do move into that role, and I've seen them move into academia. I've seen them move into life coaching responsibilities, all those things. And so it was kind of nice to have that conversation as well. So the last thing I'd like to do with everyone is encourage you to, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you actually receive each and every week the different episodes that we release. It's with those episodes that you get to hear from the experts what it is that you can be doing to work on your business and apply these principles within your own company. The other thing I would like to ask is, in addition to subscribing and listening to our other episodes, the many of which we've already published, is feel free to give us a review. We'd love to see what you're thinking of this podcast and any suggestions that you may have for what it is that we're doing each and every week to help you build and have the premier accounting firm in your area. In addition, if you happen to have any questions about applying these principles and other concepts that we address each and every week on the show, I encourage you to reach out to us at Universal Accounting. You can go to universalaccounting.com, or you can give us a phone call, 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and be safe out there, everyone.